Alrighty, everybody. Today I will show you the project that me and my teammates, Veronica and Andreas have done. Today we're going to go over several documents: the SRS, the STD, and the STD documentation. I kind of wanted to go over a brief summary of everything, just so everybody gets a good picture of kind of how we've executed things. Alrighty. So as for the introduction for the software requirements specification, the purpose for this one was we wanted to have we thought it was a good idea to talk about a website that can kind of do it all, jack of all trades, where if you're wanting to find a specific artist, um, any sort, either with their name, their song titles, or even lyrics as well, you can do so, essentially. We kind of wanted to keep it kind of more bare bones. We knew that the functionality of this would be kind of simple. We didn't really want to incorporate too much complexity because it's a website that people will go to kind of find something and then go about their day, kind of like Wikipedia. But here I can just show you the scope of it generally. It kind of goes over what I just went over here, and then we do end up using primarily a API to kind of handle all the transferable data from the strings and characters and integers that you'd be inputting into the search bar. We have a couple of abbreviations that we kind of go over. Let's see. Some features would be, as I said before, input artist titles, artist names, lyrics. The API does most of the heavy lifting. It's essentially not necessarily a database. It's more of like a kind of like it's a JSON navigating not program, but the API is kind of more of like a JSON file where it holds a lot of data, but it's not technically a database like using like Postgres or SQL or MySQL. And if we keep on going, it's very bare bones for the operating system environment. We personally are just going to be using like Visual Studio, some JavaScript, and Bootstrap to make the front end. I believe we have, where is it? Here are some requirements that we have specified that does go towards other components of the project. For example, if I look through, so the search functionality, we have some more in-depth information here with genre, release year, and artist information, and then we will provide links to these third-party platforms like YouTube, Spotify, etc., just to expand on the musical taste. And then that's more of like at face value features requirements that we want. Some non-functional would be like performance. We don't want it to buffer too long. If it does, then it would back out and ask for a search result again as a consequence of it timing out. We would want the interface to be also useful in mobile settings. We want it to be available at all times within the guidelines of the API, and what that can handle as well, because we're using a software / data that isn't necessarily ours, so we have to conform to that as well as another constraint. And then just more hardware information on what you could run with something, as said. I think that's about it for the research, or for the SRS document. Going on to the software design document, this one we kind of wanted to, same thing, have the same idea, general idea, like with the same like introduction wise, just something brief, something straightforward to what this would most likely be used as, like a real life example would be something like, I guess similar would be like YouTube, where you look for stuff, you try to find that stuff, and then with that platform you always end up reusing it. But in our case, it's more of like a niche type of specific case. So we just didn't want to go too in depth with like features and stuff, because I know most of the time people probably wouldn't access such things. But here we're going over just kind of the general layout. The front end goes to the API. API sends it to our interface, and then it is able to transfer more information from them right here at the last stage where the final page will be shown. Let's see. Some architectural features would be a use case model that we've incorporated to kind of break down the general scope of the project, including actors, description, certain data types. We have more of a breakdown down here as to what we would be looking for, how it would appear. If we keep on going, it uses just straightforward get and request methods. Nothing too bad. JSON files as a like not architecture, but data is what is stored with JSON. Not really too much with data structures, but more so just back-end communication from our end to the API, and the certain types of information we can search for, because there can be characters, there can be numbers, there can be just regular strings of information to be able to be searched about on the search bar. And that's about it on this. I've incorporated some other models here to show kind of how the user interacts with the program. And yeah, so then the STD document is test case scenario software. With this, we've decided to kind of keep it in line with how IEEE and its regulations is. So ours is quite in depth with the introduction and most of the work here. We've provided some brief introduction as to what we want to establish with what the program does, how it will be tested, and potentially showcasing errors within it, maybe some edge cases. We have quite a bit where is it? Here. So yeah, quite a bit of information here, some more definitions as to what we mean by said information. So starting off, our test plan. We've painted the situation as to it being more of a professional setting, because ideally this type of work is going to be used for that type of work. We outline essentially how we're going to break down what we're doing and incorporating it into our test cases. Here we provided our in-scope features like a search bar, buttons that go on from page to page, locating said information through the API. We have a couple of out-of-scope features: user accounts, saving user searches, storage of songs, because technically we won't be handling that information. That's more on the API side. And here are some test items that we will be conducting: search by song, search by artist, search by lyrics, redirecting to external sources. That was part of the SRS documentation, so we must test that. Results display, we want to make sure everything that we wanted to incorporate into the UI is there. Test response times, time them, see how they're performing. Browser compatibility and operating system compatibility is very important, especially in the case if somebody's, for example, using Linux. And then error and mishandled requests. That kind of more it was made to kind of break down and see if there's anything that goes wrong within communication from the user to the API. Excuse me. And then test features just breaks down a little bit more in depth in description as to what each independent item is. And we've set the guidelines here kind of as to what we're looking for in terms of not to be tested. So test approach, we felt it was most ideal to do a general testing with a development team at least, and then do some specific integral testing for each said module and class, etc. And then some regression as well at the end. We've stated some passing criteria, failing criteria for what we kind of would like to expect, and worst case scenario for it. Here I've specified tests and how theoretically they've been executed and or their expected and actual output. Most of these, they're pretty straightforward. They wouldn't really seem to give too much of an issue. Most of these, like this is a pass, I believe the 8th point, the error handling, where is it? I can't quite find the name of it. Okay. Well, essentially because anything could happen essentially in the setting where we're testing for loading errors, the site being down and whatnot, something out of control on our end or on anybody's system in general. So that's why this one's probably the only one that has failed, or it could fail as well. And it's more so maintenance phase, so that's why it's something more on the upkeep, something to keep an eye on, because anything could happen to this type of situation. Well, in this talking point for the test cases. Here's our test execution report. Just kind of going over briefly as to what was tested, how the brief description, testing information on what happened, and then just the results. and then our summary for it here.